Good evening, everyone. I am Amy McMullen. I am the chair of the Windsor Southeast Supervisory Union Board, and I call our regularly scheduled meeting to order. It is 6:32. The first item on our agenda is changes and additions to the agenda, and I was approached by Angie. They do not have a whole lot of extra news for ESSER or Summer Academy. So we will be pushing that item off until our May meeting. That is one less item. Elizabeth, your hand is raised.
Thank you, Amy. I just realized that I was supposed to follow up on the SU consolidation, and I didn't. I completely forgot, and I'm going to have to wait until June to be able to pick up the pieces of all of the many pieces around me.
Okay. So, one more. Okay. Are there any other changes to the agenda? Hearing none. Next, we have approval of the minutes. I'll take a motion to approve the minutes from March 28th, 2022.
I move. Colleen.
Second, Rebecca.
Thank you. For March 28th, are there any clarifications or corrections that need to be made? Hearing none, I will take a roll call, starting with Anne Marie.
Aye.
Beth Roy.
Aye.
Bill Yates.
Aye.
Colleen Spence.
Aye.
Davis McGraw.
Aye.
Elizabeth Burrows.
You guys got left to
She-
yourself.
Yeah. She'll be back. Mark Youngling.
Aye.
Rebecca Roisna.
Aye.
We'll go back to Elizabeth.
Wrong button. Aye.
These things happen. And I, Amy McMullen, am an aye. So those minutes were approved. I will take a motion to approve the minutes for our special meeting, April 18th, 2022.
I will move.
I can second.
The second was that Beth? Okay, thank you. Were there any clarifications, corrections that need to be made to those minutes? Hearing none, I will go down take our roll call. Anne Marie?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Bill?
I abstain.
Colleen?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
And Mark?
Aye.
Rebecca?
Aye.
And I, Amy, am an aye. Thank you very much. Next, we have public participation on items not related to the agenda. And announcements by the board. Is there anyone who would like to make comments? I have someone here in the audience. It's Michael Quinn, if you'd like to stand and introduce yourself.
Do I need to be specific?
No, the Al will look for you.
Okay. Well, I'm Michael Quinn. I live in Windsor. I'm a retired middle school science teacher from Hartford. And what the topic I wanted to speak on is some of the controversy that I've heard about Elizabeth's participation in the legislature. And so what I wanted to say tonight is that I wanted to offer a sincere thank you to her for the work she's doing on behalf of the children of Vermont. I taught 7th and 8th grade science, and they had sex ed in 8th grade. And so I developed curriculum for that. We discussed topics of sexual orientation, and so I saw it from firsthand, from let's call it the inside, where I had conversations with children about their questioning their sexuality. I heard their stories about them considering suicide, and I've actually attended funerals of students who died by suicide. Also, by students who died from drug overdose, but I don't know if that was suicide. So I know, not from reading articles or listening to the news, I know from being in the classroom with kids who were questioning who they were, what was happening to them. And I know how they needed help, and that our team of teachers provided that. And so when I hear people criticizing efforts to help young people who are questioning who they are and who they're becoming, in light of the chance that without those answers they could be considering suicide, I want to applaud the work that Elizabeth's doing and whoever else is involved, if you all are, in supporting those kids and keeping them alive by honoring who they are and who they're becoming. And so I just wanted to say a big thank you.
Great, thank you, Michael. Thanks for speaking up. Are there any other comments on items not on the agenda? Are there announcements? I have one announcement, and this is a reminder to all of the SU board members that it's really important to check your SU email to make sure that you're responding to any sort of doodle polls for upcoming meetings, because there will be several upcoming meetings. And just a reminder, and also to keep up on what's happening across the state. There are regular updates from Vermont School Board Association on what's happening in the legislature and what we as board members can write to our legislators and so they have our opinion on what's happening, needs to happen. So, and I see that Daniel Wartz has his hand raised. Yes, Daniel? And you're muted.
Daniel, I have trouble with my audio if I'm on a meeting, if I'm on Google Meets and I'm using anything other than Chrome.
Is it working now?
It is.
Okay, thank you. I switched the output device. I'm sorry for that and for the last time. I wanted to briefly respond to I forget who it was who spoke from the room, the retired teacher. I'm sorry, I forgot his name. That the I don't know if he was directly talking about the conflict of interest that I brought up around Elizabeth, and I wanted to clarify that none of me bringing that up has anything to do with the work that she's doing in the legislature or on the board. It's just that they shouldn't be done by one person. That's all. And and I decided to raise my hand after Amy mentioned updates from the school board association for work that's being done in the legislature, or how the school board could write the legislator. And I couldn't help but just note that there is also a legislator on the board sitting in the meeting right now, and that's kind of the crux of the divide there. But more on that with the next Mount Ascutney School District meeting, I suppose. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments or announcements from board members? Thank you. We will move on. We have the Superintendents Report. David?
All right, I don't have much tonight, Amy, but let me just share my screen here. I'm a little trouble with my mouse tonight, but let's just see what we got. Okay. I assume everybody can see that, Amy. Can you see it?
Yeah. I'm looking at my Chromebook, so.
Okay, good. Yeah, so just some general updates. The equity audit proposals are back. Out of 10 vendors that we sent out RFPs, we have four proposals. We're partnering with Springfield School District in this effort, only in the sense that we felt we might get a better price if one auditor could do the same region. But we need to develop a process for the initial selection. And I'm thinking if we had 2 board members from each district and 2 of our equity and anti-racism task force members, and then Springfield also gave 2 board members, and they also have an equity task force, that would be a group of about 7 or 8 of us that could look at the proposals and sort through them. Some of them are a little more lengthy than others. Some of them a little more detailed than others. But I just wanted to know whether or not the board had any thoughts on that. If you want to discuss that now, or put it under a discussion item. If that's what you want to do, then I'll reach out to the board. And when I'm talking board, I'm talking SU board, because this is an SU initiative, and ask for a couple of board members. And I'll reach out to the task force and ask for a couple of task force members. I just don't think we want that vetting committee to get too big when we open up these bids. How do people feel about that? Any immediate thoughts? I can't see anybody. So if you have a comment from a board member, if I don't hear any, I'll assume you're okay with that.
Anne Marie has her hand raised.
I guess just first thing, I just thought maybe 3 board members might be better, just so we have 1 from each of our districts. But
Yeah,
that's just a thought.
That's a good idea. Yeah. You want to do a fist of 5 on that?
I'm sorry, what was that, David?
Do we all agree with that? Are we okay? Sounds like we are. Okay, then let's I'm going to go back to the slideshow here just because I had to let somebody in. Gets a little tricky. All right, so I'll set that up in the next week or so. I need to coordinate with Zach, obviously, but I think that's a great idea, Anne Marie. One from each of the local districts, and then a couple of task force members. I think that'll be very representative. Then I'll send the proposals out once we look at them to all the board members, so you see them. But I'll also let you know what people choose. The work is not supposed to start until summer into the fall, so there's no rush on this, and we want to do it. We want to do it carefully. Teacher and support staff individual contracts went out on the 15th. Tina worked really hard to get them out. At-will contracts went out also. They've been out for a while now. The teacher contracts and at-will contracts were due back by today. I think we've got all at-will contracts. We had a couple of teachers who asked for an extension. I generally grant an extension when it's in April, so that doesn't become much of an issue. And support staff contracts are due back April 30th. All employees got 15 days to return contracts. We are looking for several employees across the SU, both at the support staff level and at the professional level. Needless to say, the market is sparse. These are difficult jobs, but we are getting good candidates for all of the jobs that we have posted, and we'll certainly keep the individual boards. Some of them are district positions, some of them are SU positions, but we'll keep you posted as we hire folks, obviously. Free lunch Wednesdays continues to be a hit. That's great. Last day of school hasn't changed. No snow days. We got close there not too long ago, but no snow days. So it'll be a noon dismissal on June 17th. And that will be our final day. And last but not least, we have some SU financials. I'm gonna try to put the financials. The chat is closed for public comment because we don't want two meetings going on at once, but I can still put things in the chat. So I'll put the third quarter financials in the chat. We can certainly talk about them at our next meeting, but I will tell you that the central office is running a $33,000 surplus. Special education is running about a $22,000 surplus, and early childhood is running about $102,000 surplus, which means the total surplus right now for the SU is $157,813. I'll put that in the chat though, so we're still running in the black. It's early. We still have to put in the final special ed expenditure report, which Ed does coming up here fairly soon. Sometimes that surprises us because we get more revenue than anticipated, but it's late enough in the year to say that it looks like we'll end up at the supervisory union with at least a modest surplus, which means that what we normally do with a surplus is we either credit it back to the individual districts as part of their payment on FY23 assessments, or we just return that money to the districts. I mean, usually with an amount this is $1 million. It's a decent amount, but we'll probably just credit those amounts using the formula we always use toward your next year's payment. The last thing is the task force, the equity task force is going to be meeting. I finished the summary. I'm going to get it out to the task force. I really think we need one more meeting with the task force, the equity and anti-racism task force, before the end of the year. And so I'll be sending that out to help sort of get the process started around prioritizing the action steps that we developed. And to Amy's point earlier about board members checking their email, Mary Gannon's work looks to be promising at the SU level, and we're trying to establish those board dates now. If you remember when Mary came before us last month, she wanted to have at least 3 2-hour work sessions with the SU board. So she gave us some dates, and Lori is trying to use those dates to doodle poll the entire all the board members. So if you get that doodle poll, please fill it out. I think she sent out another one today. So fill it out so that she can coordinate with Mary and get those sessions set up in the coming months. If there are any questions, I can take them now, and I will stop sharing here in just a second.
Rebecca, you've had your hand raised, and then Elizabeth.
So yes, David, I have one question. I just want to go back to your comment on the available positions at the SU level and at the district level. And I just wanted to know, I know we've talked about this before, but where are you advertising? Right now, I'm sure at the community college level, we have individuals that are going to be graduating soon. And I just wondered if we're tapping into some of the local colleges and institutions, in addition to the professional spring.
The school spring.
School to spring.
Yeah.
And the other question I had, my second question was, you want to, all of the board members are going to be participating in the Mary Gagnon presentation, correct?
Correct. Well, yeah, I mean, that's who we're inviting, and that's who we'd like to organize it that way. Again, we certainly would like to, make it more of like a carousel professional development piece. So yeah, so you're correct, Rebecca. And in terms of who we're advertising or where we're advertising, I mean, when you go through School Spring, certainly you get some of those other monster.com and Indeed and some of those others just automatically go. In terms of reaching out individually to colleges or universities, I'm not sure that that's happened. I know, but it's a good idea, and certainly the one who's looking most feverishly right now is Katie Ahern, and she's on the line. I know that she'll take that under advisement, and maybe we can reach out to some of the schools and colleges who are graduating students in May, or maybe some of them graduated them in January.
I can speak to it now if you want.
Katie, do you want to speak to that? Yeah, go ahead.
We have regionally, we have reached out to colleges as well as individually, just within the Director of Special Ed for our areas. And we've had a couple of bites that way. For the most part, it's the number of graduates in our field is significantly declined. And we're pleased with the people we've had. Most are coming, switching jobs, not coming as new graduates. But like we did last year, we have broadened our scope and put out any carrots we can. We also are looking at taking advantage of the AOE's Grow Your Own Special Educator program, which we have at least 4 support staff looking to do, as well as special education interventionists, trying to take an alternative look to that. So that you'll hear more about that in May if you'd like. We're just an interest.
Great, thank you, Katie. Elizabeth.
Thank you, Amy. David, I just want to be absolutely sure that I understand the piece with Mary Gannon. My understanding was that it is for the board. It's a training series for the board and for any educators, anybody. That the specific audience is the board, but any educators in our system are welcome to attend, and also that members of the public, should they be desirous of attending, also will have access to it, to attend right along with us. Is that right?
Yeah, that is correct. And once we invite more than a majority of the board, which we have done, to Rebecca's point, I mean, we're going to try to encourage all board members to come. And that's why if you're not getting the doodle poll, then reach out to Lori and she'll send it. Something's happening there. But yes, and those will be public sessions. But the first thought was to get Mary's dates, then to get the board committed. Then we'll invite, we'll certainly invite everybody else through the standard warning procedure. But you're absolutely right, Elizabeth.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I understood. Thank you.
Yeah, and just so you know, I got a text from Brittany Preston who wanted to remind me that we also, this is to Rebecca's point, we also did we did an online fair where we opened up our jobs online to local colleges and universities. So so that was another. I didn't know. Maybe I should have, but I didn't know about that. But that was a way to reach out to those colleges and universities as well, and that was certainly sponsored by them, but we participated in that.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for David? Thank you. And is that all you had on your report, David?
That's it. Yep.
So we are on to items for discussion. And number 1 is administrative salaries. And I believe it was Bill who had asked to have this on the agenda.
Oh, thank you, Amy. One of the reasons I wanted it on the agenda is I'm looking for the approval of the board to investigate what our administrators in the SU get paid. What is the system in which determines what level of pay they're at, and similar on what I did with the teacher's contract. I then would like to go and investigate the surrounding areas, and because I would have the approval of the board, I could call up SUs with that representation and ask those SU admins how they do it. And then I like to compare and contrast how our administrators get compensated in comparison to surrounding areas, and then to come back to the board and report back to how we stand, what our processes are like, if I have any, suggestions, directions we might want to take and discuss, especially if this is something that we want to tackle over the summer, because it would take me a good 2 months to do this analysis, but I'm more than welcome to do it and actually quite motivated. So that's my spiel. I'm wondering what the board thinks. David?
Yeah, first of all, I just want to support Bill in that effort. I will tell you that I went back into the compensation schedule that we developed, and many of the board members may not even remember this, but it was it was the 2014-2015 school year. And I will tell you that schedule, first of all, only covers principals, assistant principals, and central office employees. And we've created new positions since then. The salaries are the ranges, we set up ranges that are very outdated. And so it needs a good look. And having watched Bill do this with teachers and support staff, he's got a system and he can put together a great comparison on spreadsheets. So I mean, again, I probably won't be. I'll certainly get him started. I won't be intimately involved in what work goes on over the summer into the fall. But I just wanted to say to the board, it's work that needs to be done. And what we might want to do, the only suggestion I would have is give Bill some support. Not that he would need it, but it might be good to just sort of activate, one other member from each of the other districts to kind of, at least when he's ready, to check in with them. So almost like the negotiating team did with teachers and support staff. So that's all I wanted to say. I just wanted to say I support the effort. It is very outdated right now. What we've been doing is basically using the teacher increases, and then we add those to the administrative salaries, with a couple of exceptions based on somebody with no experience or lots of experience, but it's been, there isn't any documentation that would support what we're doing now.
Great. Thank you. Davis, you have a question?
No, I really just wanted to comment, and thank you, David, for adding some more information about how we might need to update our administrative pay schedule. I just wanted to voice my support for this. I think that getting a global view of this, of how our administrative staff is being paid, and bring it up to date with what's happening in the area. And clearly, if David's saying some of these schedules are out of date, we definitely want to make sure that we're looking at those in depth. I think it's work worth doing. I appreciate you being willing to do it, Bill. So yeah, I'm fully in support of that effort.
Thank you. And I have to say, I like David's idea of including all the districts. I'm wondering if I could reach out to the to the negotiating team. We would have to add someone from Heartland because Scott is, of course, retired, and along those lines, possibly have them be my contact individuals when I get to a certain point. I'm also wondering if this is something that we might want to formally make a motion and approve in some ways, or if everyone just wants to give their 2 cents and give me sort of a general approval.
I have already added it as item number 3 when we get to our items for action.
Okay, thank you.
And let me see, Rebecca, you have your hand raised, and then Mark.
Thank you, Amy. I just wanted to comment that in my years working in the Claremont School District, over the years, I would see really excellent teachers leave, and most of them would go to either Hartford or Lebanon, and that was really sad. So I think that it is really important to know what others are doing around you. So thank you for even considering this bill.
Oh, you're welcome.
And Mark, did you change your mind?
My questions and suggestions were already answered. Thanks.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mark. Are there any other questions or comments on administrative salaries? Elizabeth.
I simply want to thank Bill for being mindful of that. Thank you. And if there's anything I can do to help, please call on me.
Thank you, Elizabeth. One thing that is difficult sort of to point out is, like, unlike New Hampshire, Vermont doesn't publicly place out their admin salaries like many of the teacher salaries that are available. So it's going to take more footwork than just sort of searching the union websites of the surrounding districts, but I'm happy to do it.
Right. Salary surveys can be kind of time consuming, having done them back when I worked at the VA. Yeah. And David.
Yeah, so it looks like I saw heads nodding that we'll sort of, part of the motion will be to engage the negotiating committee with Bill's lead in facilitating a study of our administrative salary. So that sounds, like what we'll do. So I just wanted to be clear, Anne Marie, Jackie is still the negotiating person in Weathersfield. Is that correct?
Yeah, I think that she agreed to that. I'm pretty sure.
I know Nikki had I thought so. But Beth, do you remember who was the Heartland rep that took Scott's place? Did we appoint one?
Yeah, I think Colleen, is it you? Yeah.
It's Colleen. Okay. So Bill, that would be your team: Colleen Spence, Jackie Antonovich, and you. So I just
Definitely
wanted
the A team.
That's the A team right there.
Yes.
Yeah. Good. And I'll send you some info too, Bill, once this is voted in.
Brittany,
Yeah, I was just going to say, hopefully it helps a little bit, but Jay Nichols from the VPA often has a list of salaries in the state of Vermont. So that might be a resource for you.
Thank you.
true. Thank you, Brittany. Okay, any other comments before we go on to item B, which is community forum?
Yeah, so this was based on public input at our last SU meeting and at some of our individual district meetings. And there seemed to be a willingness on the part of the boards to orchestrate some public forums around particular themes or key issues that are developing. And I think people decided that they didn't think it was, at least initially, appropriate to do these at the SU level, but to do them maybe on the first run at the local level. But I just didn't know whether we wanted to have a conversation either now or soon on what the format would look like and possibly what that first theme might be. So I think it's really up to the board how you want to go about this. We don't have to spend hours on this, but just kind of getting a layout of how this should happen and sort of an idea of a timeline.
I open the floor to board comments. Davis.
Yeah, thanks, Amy, and I thanks for bringing this up, David. I think the couple that we did, I think generally just having either a member of the board or an outside subject matter expert be prepared to give some sort of presentation to engage the community and then open up the floor for a conversation. I think it can be as simple as that. I think that worked pretty well with our events in the past. I'd also offer up, because I work with Windsor on Air as well on their board, so they're a great asset for helping to get this out into the community. As far as broadcasting it, live streaming it, and making it available after the fact. So I'm happy to be an asset in making sure these happen, whether we're doing it on the local or the SU level. I generally, in having put on events in various capacities over the years, I think finding a simple, straightforward idea and not overthinking it too much and going for it tends to work pretty well. That's my 2 cents on it. I think I was very happy with how the first couple we did went. So I'd be happy to see more happen.
Right, and Davis, in that respect, if we were to take a topic that is of interest SU-wide, which there have been a few, we could do it at, say, the Welcome Center or even here in room 210, someplace that can accommodate both an audience as well as the virtual aspect of it. Rebecca.
I like the idea, both ideas, and what I was just going to, I'm trying to think, what was I going to add to that? The simple idea, bringing in an individual who's informed about what is it that we're talking about is important. I remember hearing that at one of our last board meetings, parents saying, "I don't know," and I think them having that information is so important. So, thank you for bringing that up, David, and hopefully we can plan on doing that pretty soon.
Elizabeth.
Thank you, Amy. I'm sorry that I blacked out for a second, apparently, but are we discussing whether to do it at a local level or at the SU level or both?
Well, I'm not exactly sure. It's here on this agenda to discuss possibly having an SU-wide, at bringing in all of, any of our SU community to participate in a community forum, because there are several topics that people have interest, curriculum being one of them, that is SU-wide.
Yep. I was going to say, and I've talked to a couple of people about this, but one topic that's kind of pressing, that is an SU-wide topic, might be what we want from our next superintendent. Like what the community members of our supervisory union weighing in on what they'd like to see in our next superintendent.
That is a relevant topic, indeed. Thank you. Anne Marie?
Yeah, I just was going to say, it kind of depends on the topics that we come up with. But yeah, the superintendent one would be one that would definitely be SU-wide, as well as curriculum. I think those are two that are probably are going to come up first, and they both seem to be sort of SU-wide. I'm not sure. I mean, there are some other topics that might be more individual school-based, but a lot of the bigger topics that are on people's minds are actually decided at the SU level. So maybe it would make more sense to just have one SU meeting about them.
Right, thank you. And I see your point on that. There are some, because we do have kind of a different feel at each of our school communities, that parents might want to know a little bit more about what happens at after school, or even at recess at one school, what happens for their child, or something along those lines, which would then be more on the local level, but somewhat the bigger topics would be more SU-wide. And I have Rebecca, and then Angie, and then Beth. So Rebecca.
To Anne Marie's point, I wonder if it would be valuable to have, but I'm not sure how we would do that, but we can talk about that, to have a survey. We've done this before, and we've sent it out to the parents to get, and we can come up, because the board has looked at several topics that we wanted to discuss. And so I'm wondering if we want to consider a survey to our individual communities and see if there's something that comes up across the board or not. And then maybe we can decide whether we want to have an SU-wide, or whether we want to have community specific forums. The second point, to Elizabeth's point, and that is, if we do have an SU-wide conversation around our next superintendent, I think we were hoping that we would have someone like the Vermont School Board Association at that conversation also. And that's just my thinking.
Yeah, to assist in the facilitation. Right. Angie.
Oh, I guess I don't have to unmute because Brianna was there, sorry. I was wondering about the strategic plan, because we wrote that 2 summers ago. So, and because the, pandemic, there are a lot of parents that haven't, a lot of community members and board members that may not be familiar with the process we took, and it might be, that might be a good idea.
Yeah, exactly. And wow, 2 years ago?
Yeah, summer of 21,
oh,
right?
Oh my gosh. That's, yeah. Beth.
Hi, I think one thing I just want to caution us about around public, participation in certain subjects is just like the idea of having public comment around curriculum. and it hosted by the board, that seems like that's not really a school board's job, is based on, we deal with policy. And so I think if we wanted to hold a public forum on that, it would really need to be held and sponsored by the administration, because they're the ones that are the experts around curriculum, not the school board.
The person who would be facilitating that would be our curriculum experts.
Yeah, and I just don't know. It seems a little weird that the school board would sponsor it when that's not our role is not to decide on curriculum topics and things. Our role is strictly policy. That's all, just to making sure it's clear to the public what our roles are.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Beth. Angie, did you have more?
No.
Okay. Elizabeth.
Oh, sorry. I'll take my hand down.
Thank you, Amy. I think we could probably divide the forums into two categories. One being the board seeking public input on a subject matter, and the other kind being the board introducing a subject that they want to educate the public about and have a discussion surrounding it. But I think those are very different. Those look very different. And I think they're both really important. So I'm not advocating for either one, but I think we should keep it clear. Rather, I'm not advocating for either one. I am advocating for both, but I think we should keep it clear which we're planning to do, and we could alternate, or but I don't think, for example, I don't think we should have a survey on topics that we need public input on, but we might have a survey on topics that we give the public a list of topics that we want to educate them on, and seek their input on. But those are kind of two different lists.
So I understood, and Rebecca, correct me if I'm wrong, but I understood what you meant was have a list of items that we would like to educate, or to see if our public would like more information on that. And then like number one would be, I don't know what the topic would be, our strategic plan. Let's say that our community says, yes, we want to know about the strategic plan, and that gets the most votes. So that would be our first community forum, and we would have Angie come assist with facilitating, and as well as our administrators. Is that what you meant, Rebecca?
Yes, that is what I meant. These are things that are being raised by the community and or by us. I mean, that we both have stock into being transparent around these issues. And so I know that there were only several community members that participated in the strategic plan. I don't know if all community members even know that we have a strategic plan. So I think that the strategic plan is a big one, an important one. And yeah, we as a board have spoken about several things that we wanted community input in. We talked about wanting community input, not when a situation, we want to talk about things early on. We want to be transparent. We want to let, work with the community in moving the school forward. And that would, the strategic plan. But yeah, that is what I was talking about, giving them some options that we would like to work with them closely on.
Okay, thank you. Anne Marie?
Beth just gave me a good idea. Well, she sort of said the idea, which is that I think a lot of our communities don't really understand the role of the school board. And some of the comments that we've received at some recent board meetings indicate that people don't really understand what we're involved in and what is our responsibility and what each school board member has as far as power goes, that we individually don't have any power. It's only as a board that we have any power. And I think that that's important for some members of the community to be reminded of, or to even know. Maybe they, just don't know that. So I think that would be a really good topic.
Right, that would be, as well as the difference between our district board, the local school district board versus the supervisory union board, and the role of each of those. So yeah, that would be a very good topic. And I hope someone's writing these down. I bet Elizabeth is. So I think we can have, I know that we are going to be having more discussion about the our superintendent search, not at this meeting, but at the May meeting. So that is when we can decide, as far as community forums, to get community input on that. In the meantime, if there are members of our board who would like to volunteer to get some possible dates, and the first topic could be something, either strategic plan or the role of the board. And we could just have a nice community forum on one of those topics. So if there are some volunteers who get together and look at some dates, that would be wonderful. Elizabeth.
I think we could actually do both in one forum, what the board is and does, or what the boards do, and the strategic plan, which I think we should, have a little more ever so slightly more user-friendly title, like where we're headed, how we got here, where we're going, kind of, and also where in the strategic plan are we?
Right.
So we need to know that too. I'd be happy to help. I can't help for the next couple of weeks, but after the next couple of weeks are over, I'm all about helping.
Okay. So let's see, David.
Now, maybe you were just about to do this, Amy, but I just wanted to know if somebody could summarize what the next step would be.
So we're looking for probably 3 volunteers, one from, well, I know that Davis had volunteered kind of early. So at least 3 people to look at dates for our possible community forum, dates and a location, and arranging for, say, Windsor on Air to assist with the presenting of that. And then I just lost my train of thought.
So that takes care of Mount Scottney. Do we have anybody who'd volunteer from the other 2 districts?
I'll volunteer from Weathersfield.
Okay, thank you. And do we have someone from Heartland? Beth?
Looks like Colleen, Beth was just on the edge, but
Yeah,
I think Colleen might have beat her to it.
with the end of the school year, it's kind of crunch time for me right now. But if it's going to be maybe, I'm assuming it's not going to be after the school year, or are we talking this summer to organize?
Yeah, first of all, these do take a while to organize. I mean, I think it'll either be, and everybody's end of the year is pretty busy. I think we, with graduations and musicals and all kinds of banquets and that sort of stuff. I mean, my guess is we'll get the organization done, but maybe plan on the timeline to be somewhere either maybe very early fall, like in September. Is that what people are thinking, or is that too late?
No, we're thinking earlier than that. Elizabeth?
I'm not sure I understand what would take that long to pull it together if it's just a community discussion. I mean, I think we could pull it off before the end of the school year. Since this was part of at least the SU goals for this year, and also our on Mount Escutney School District, our goals. The only thing that really, I mean, there are a lot of, time constraints as far as scheduling. We don't want to have it be when we are now having the series with Mary Gannon. We don't want to have it be when we have another board meeting night. So it does provide some constraints, but it's a forum. It doesn't have to be a huge presentation or anything. I think it really is more facilitation than presentation myself. But if I'm totally off base about that, I apologize, and I'd love to know why.
I'm more with you, Elizabeth, at least with the topic that we're going to start with, being the roles and responsibilities of school board members. I think that's pretty straightforward. So it would be a matter of finding a date that doesn't conflict with other activities, keeping in mind other spring activities that happen in our communities, such as if there are any plays happening at our schools. Also, there's Little League. Granted, that doesn't go till late at night, but it's still, parents are going right after school and they are there for at least an hour and a half, and then they come home and have to feed their children and get them ready for the next day. So there are quite a few things happening right now in people's lives, but I think we can find a date that would work, and it would be recorded so people could at least watch it at their leisure.
And we could also solicit questions for people who can't attend. We could provide a place for them to be able to send questions, and then since it will be broadcast on Windsor On Air, they'll get their answer that way.
Questions, yes, I like it. Rebecca.
I was still hoping that it would be earlier rather than later, and I wanted to make sure that our parents were available for this. And I think that our community has already said that they want to hear more from us, and so I think that we should really consider doing this before the school year ends. The second thing is, as Amy said, this is something that can be recorded, and so parents can go on. If they can't make it, at least they can access this information, and if they have further comments, they can come back and share that. The other piece is, I wonder, I mean, if I'm not mistaken, I don't remember if it was 1 or 2 hours, the community forums. And I think if we have if it is a 2-hour community forum, I think we can do both. I think we can speak to the role of the board member, but I think we can also speak to the strategic plan, because I think the sooner the community understands and hears about it again, the easier it is for us to move forward. And so, yeah, I would love for them to sit over the summer with information on this strategic plan and be able to say, I have questions about it. So I like the idea, but that's me, of doing the 2 hours, of doing both presentations, and eliciting feedback from the community after we have them. They may, want to know more about one or the other, but I think doing both is a good idea. I think doing it before the school year is over and Windsor on Air is perfect for those who don't have an opportunity to participate.
Great. Thank you, Rebecca. Davis.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add I think that it's from today, looking at where the school year ends, I think that it is possible to do before the end of the school year. Having been involved with putting the last ones together, the one thing that I would say is that we really want to be sure, if the goal is to have as much community engagement as possible, both at the in-person event. I mean, afterwards, having Windsor on Air and doing it hybrid, we're going to be able to have that engagement after the live event. Getting the live event engagement, I think we really just want to make sure we're focused on figuring out what the event is, what we're talking about, and setting the date, and then getting the word out at a minimum of 2 weeks before. Because that's something that, just as far as if people only have a week or a week and a half, no matter how interested they are, and sometimes even if they're free, it can be hard for it to really get in there. So I just want to kind of voice that now as we're planning this, that we want to be somewhat decisive, especially in a short time frame, and just be able to get that out there. And especially working with Windsor on Air, I know that Paula, if we give her all of the key information, she'll sometimes even make those posts and get the word out. But we just have to make sure we know ahead of time and not be going too close to the wire.
Right. Thank you, Davis. Anne Marie.
I guess my thing would be making sure that the person, and I'm guessing it's Angie, that would be doing the strategic plan presentation part of it, would have time to do it before the end of the school year. So I just want to see what Angie's thoughts were.
Angie, would you like to respond to that, or?
I probably could make something work. So, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you would have input as to the dates. So it's not like we would say, oh, the board wants it on this day, and
as long as I had plenty of lead time, I could probably make it work.
Okay.
I don't have that busy a life, so good.
Great, thank you. Beth.
Hi, the spring is just, it's a crazy time, and I think it's going to be really hard to get people to participate. I just know if I have a free evening, I am out in the garden versus anything else, basically. So I'm assuming there's a lot of other people out there like that. So we have to make this as exciting and fun as possible. So I think if we can figure out how to do it in person as a community cookout or something like that, because I probably wouldn't come otherwise. It was really going to be hard to get people to want to hear about strategic plan. If it's a lovely May evening or something. So I would just think, and Colleen, I will take you off the hook since I know you're on negotiations and stuff. So I will hold this one. And I always love planning a good party. So.
Okay, thank you. Colleen. Uh-oh. We will wait for Colleen to come back. David.
Did I disappear?
No, now we've got Colleen. Do you want to
I'm
go
sorry,
first, Colleen?
I think maybe my mic hit a glitch or something. I was making a confession that I'm not actually on the negotiating committee. I volunteered for that by accident. Heather is our negotiating committee person. So we'll get her tied
You
in with
just should have
Bill.
been quiet, Colleen.
I know. I was also gonna, my comment was gonna be along the lines of, oh my God, I'm so busy. I could not, I don't think I could do it for this month. My May looks crazy. I don't know if anybody else is feeling that, but I'm all for a forum. And if we can get it squeezed in, but I don't think I can. I think
Yeah.
I will struggle to make the forum.
Yeah, so to that point, two quick things. First of all, Colleen, I think the reason that we appointed the new board member in Heartland to the negotiating team is because we knew we wouldn't be negotiating for at least another couple of years. So I think it would be better if somebody with some
Well,
experience.
I'll be glad to do it.
So Colleen, if you don't mind, I think, Bill, let's keep Colleen's name on that administrator list, and then we'll talk further about how to move that. And then Beth, that then probably moves you to the forum list, right, to some degree. So I'll put that name down. And the only other thing I'll say is I've just watched Lori struggle to find a common date for something like this right now. And that's the Mary Gannon stuff. And
those dates, I think, should take precedence, not to talk over you, Dave, but
right.
I want to get those nailed down before we.
Yeah, I think we've got to get those nailed down. Now, that doesn't mean, again, I think we'll get this committee fired up. And if we can pull it off in May or early June, I mean, I hear what everybody's saying, and we'll give it our best shot. I do want to speak to what Davis said, and that is that I think it's good to start these things off with some level of expertise. So again, Angie and the administrative team, I think we can work together and put something together on the strategic plan. In terms of the role of the board and the role of in all of this, we can probably work through that without a consultant. But if there's anybody that anybody knows who might be willing to speak to that end of it, because I liked what David said, it's good to have a little bit of information up front, 10 minutes or so, and then kind of open it up to board members and the public. So I'm willing to give it a shot. I just know that this is a busy time for both the administration and for all of you. So we'll get it started.
Davis?
Yeah, I guess I just wanted to seek some clarification here. I think with the forums, and this may take a little bit of the stress off scheduling it, and recognizing what Beth said, that like the spring gets busy, it's tough for people to get to it, and that's why especially in the spring, I really stress being able to have it recorded or hybrid. But with this being a forum, we don't have to have a ton of people from the board there necessarily. We're just, as I think Amy, you might have said, we're facilitating it with people from the board, but it could be 2 or 3 of us there making sure it gets set up and happens, so that whoever our subject matter experts are can answer community questions. But ideally, it's nice if it's a date that works for everyone, but there's a little bit less of a constraint in this situation than the Mary Gannon stuff, because that's really for us, whereas this is something we're facilitating for the community. Is that what we're thinking?
Correct.
Okay.
Thank you. And Nancy?
There we go. This is going to sound awful, but I think I wouldn't want to come to something that was going to be 2 hours in the summer, in the springtime, and especially we're hoping these are parents and their children to go to bed and things like that. I think that it should only be an hour at the most. I think, that's what
Okay, thank you. Elizabeth?
What if we had combined it as a end of the year end of the year celebration with kids running around and dogs running around, and we have some sort of food involved where we give them a presentation on the board and the where we are, where we're headed, strategic plan presentation, and then we talk with them about it, but it's really more of a discussion.
Well, I think that will be a wonderful thing for the team, the community forum team, to discuss.
Yeah, and I think, and by the way, is Elizabeth on that team? I think she just nominated herself, but yeah. So what I'll do, just for closure, because I know we've spent a lot of time on this, I'll pull that team together, even if we do it virtually, in the next couple of days here, and try to work that out. I like what Elizabeth said. There may be a way we do something in the auditorium that's not 2 hours, Nancy, but maybe something a little shorter. And then, then we have the wonderful pathway right to the outdoors. I'm sure Craig could set up a little barbecue thing for us. I mean, we may be able to make this enticing enough to get a few people there. The reason I'm saying auditorium is because we want the forum part of it to be recorded, and I think that's going to be important. And sometimes it's hard to record a barbecue, but we'll figure it out, and stay tuned. I think, unless anybody's got any other comments, I think we've got our marching orders, and we can pull it together. And Angie and I will be a team on this one, I think, as we go forward here.
Yay! Yes. Okay. Thank you, David, and thank you all the volunteers for that. I know you're going to do great work and come up with some great ideas for our community forum. It will be enticing. Yes. So we are going to move on to finance and operations, and I'm going to hand it over to Larry.
Yeah, just quickly before Larry starts, this was a new position for Larry, and he has worked incredibly hard this year to make finance and operations more cohesive. And I think what you're going to see in this presentation tonight is just some of those early accomplishments. And as always, Larry is such an asset to our SU and to our district. So, Larry, I don't want to embarrass you, but it's all yours.
Thanks. And I think later on this presentation, there might be a date that pops out to you guys for those on the community forum subcommittee, but we'll get to that. So as David said, I'm basically going to give you an update. I always wanted to do a spring update once I got settled. And this is basically, I'm going to go department by department about what we've been doing. First is our mission. Is to leverage powerful resources of people, property, projects, and plans to deliver on the promise of supporting better educational outcomes, more opportunity for all of our students in all of our schools. And a couple things under that bullets are, and this is in the chat, so you can read this. I'm not going to read every bullet, but I think just the idea of all the things that this great team does, not just the department heads, but all the people who work in buildings and grounds, human resources, the business office, IT, and food services and transportation. For example, we serve almost 250,000 student meals annually. There's almost 1 million square feet of property and 30 acres, 300 dedicated employees that HR deals with, $25 million of budget capacity, not including ESSER, and over 100,000 miles annually that we transport students. Human resources, some of you would know this, our payroll coordinator resigned right around the SU budget time, and we moved payroll under HR and hired an administrative assistant for that FTE. So again, not a new position, but a kind of reworking of the department. And since HR had handled payroll when there was times when the payroll coordinator was out. And as we went through a couple payroll coordinators, Tina and HR had been handling that. So we wanted to just make that real, and we hired an administrative assistant. Payroll has not missed a beat, thanks to Tina Canfield, our HR director, and our new HR administrative assistant, Jordan Sargent, who's doing a great job. We also introduced digital time cards in late March. We were still using paper time cards in 2022, so we wanted to get away from that. That has improved efficiency. We're almost saving, we think in the end, about a day and a half during a payroll period for the people in central office who do that work. So and I know it doesn't sound like a lot, a day and a half, but if it's a day and a half times 2 a month, that's 3 days a month times a year, et cetera. It also improves accountability. Hourly employees are now simply clocking in on their app or on their phone on a computer. We've offered hands-on training as well as self-paced videos by IT services, including drop-in training this Friday during early release day. Just a reminder to all the parents watching, Friday is an early release day, and for paraprofessionals who want to come in and get some extra training on the digital time card system. Buildings and grounds, we finished the 5-year preventive maintenance and capital plan that was presented and adopted by the Mount Scottney School District on April 11th. Next up is May 10th for Wethersfield. We will be presenting that plan. After that, we're going to do Heartland, but that's where we are with that. Also, I wanted to give some an update. SU was featured by Efficiency Vermont in November for being the gold standard for air quality and ventilation systems. And Jim Taft has done a wonderful job at that. Jim Taft has found a lot of grant money, I think about a year ago. It's over $200,000. We outfitted many of our schools, increased air quality, airflow, and it's automated. So Jim can do that on a rotating schedule basis rather than manually, which has really helped out. The business service, again, it's a small group that does a lot of work and is responsible for a lot of important things. When some of us make mistakes, you know, in IT, for example, we might lose a Wi-Fi access point. If somebody in the business office makes mistakes, there's zeros on the end of it. So we really appreciate all the work that they do. All budgets have been adopted and passed. Ed Connors worked tirelessly with the building principals to prepare the local budgets. And we also sent out to parents, and this is an example of departments working with each other, food service, and had a balance. As you know, we haven't been charging students for food since COVID happened. And a letter was sent out to parents with a certain minimum balance. It was $10 to choose to reimburse or donate their funds. Extra thanks to Lori Brown and for preparing and collating the letters, and Deanna Kroll, our assistant business manager, for reconciling the funds. Also, we have consolidated purchasing for special education with special ed. Betsy for Katie has done a great job doing the requisitions and the POs. Again, it's much more efficient rather than having Kylie involved in that. Betsy can go right to Katie, who can approve the recs, and then it goes to Ed for final approval. Meanwhile, that's freed up our purchasing agent, Kylie Taft, to be trained on accounts payable by Gail McCoy, who is a longtime accounts payable clerk. And she is now doing all accounts payable for Wethersfield School. Again, an example of cross-training, purchasing with access accounts payable. E-finance difficulties. We are still experiencing continued difficulties with e-finance. We just want the board to be aware. Thankfully, there may be some changes within the legislature, draft resolution 22, that may allow us to find a better tool for our needs in the future. To give you some of the history, the state has required every school to use e-finance at a certain point. Some refuse to, and there are some difficulties that we're not the only SU experiencing them, that we feel that there may be an opportunity later, then the state will allow us to use a different software using the best tool for the job. It's kind of an old Vermont adage, you use the best tool for the job. When we went to digital time cards, we went with Frontline, which is the market leader in that, just like with Power School, which is the market leader in student information systems. Food services, speaking of community forums, I want to thank the hundreds of meals we provided for our community dinners in the fall and early spring. There will be a future community dinner at Mount Scottney and Heartland with a barbecue theme on May 25th. So shout out to Craig Locarno and the food services team. So those people who are on the board who are just, delegated the idea of coming up with a community forum in May If you want to do it before school ends, I'm just throwing this out there. There will be community dinner at both locations on May 25th at the same time. I don't know how they're pulling it off, but Craig says he can do it, and I believe him. So just throwing that date out there. There'll be more publication about that as the principals get closer to their May newsletters. Also, food services and Mount Scottney Food Project was featured in the Food Connect's April issue. That was on the website and social media, but I'm reminding you guys here again, free breakfast and lunch, as some of you know, will be ending as of June 30th and 22 for all students 18 and under, unless the legislature passes S100 for universal school meals. If not, we will be required to re-implement a full paid food program that will be very difficult to manage and sustain. So we're watching that in the legislature. We hope it gets passed. Just keep an eye out for that bill, S100. Anybody who wants to contact their legislature or their senator and the governor to have them sign that bill. I'm just putting that out there. IT services, bullpen format. We moved to a bullpen format for the 21-22 school year. So what a bullpen is, David, this was originally David's idea about 8 years ago, and I'm late to the party. I fought him for years to do this. We had our techs at each individual school, and that's the way we've done it for years. After COVID, we kind of went to a bullpen format because we were doing a lot of traveling across the SU to deliver Chromebooks and supplies and parts. And it kind of made me think a little bit more that I was wrong earlier about the bullpen format, and that it would be a good idea to put all the techs in one location for the collaboration. And the results have been great. Our highest SLA, which is our service level agreement, essentially is our goal. Our goal is 100% of our tickets in 24 business hours or 3 school days. We're now at 99.1% of that. We've cut our resolution time. Yes, question.
What was SLA again?
Service level agreement.
Okay.
Another fancy word for goal.
Thank
It's and it cut our resolution time by almost half. If you look at that chart on the bottom right, the smaller bars are better than the bigger bars. So you can see as the years went on, it really improved, and it was a bullpen format. Also, when I got moved to Director of Finance and Operations, Mike Walker was promoted to IT Services Manager. So I think he deserves a lot of the credit there too, not just the bullpen. Mike's done a great job stepping into those shoes. Power School and Snap. Snap is the nursing software, and one of those projects I mentioned earlier, the 45 new projects we've completed, was one of the ones that kept getting pushed back year by year, was making Power School sync with Snap. We finally did that this summer. It's one of the biggest things that the nurses have asked us for over the years, and we're happy to do it. And no more duplicate entries. It's one-stop shop. Everything that's in Power School is now in Snap, which has made the nurses' life a lot easier. And as much as we can do for the nurses during COVID is time and effort well spent. We also optimize the servers so we can scale out a camera system across the SU. I know I mentioned this to the SU board back in the fall. Windsor and Heartland are done, and we're preparing for Weathersfield and Albert Bridge this summer. We've tapped additional ESSER 3 money. So when Angie presents ESSER 3 for those community forums that she's done, and the plan inside that plan is camera products. So that will help us. We've hung almost 80 cameras across our campuses, and we think when it's all finally rolled out, probably up to the 120, 130 cameras. That includes outdoor cameras for a safe, secure school environment. Moving forward, here are some things on my horizon. I want to really help out Lori with the digital packet system. And rather than sending emails, back and forth with PDFs, we want to try to find a better, more efficient way to do that. So I'm going to be working with Lori this spring on that, as well as updating the board pages on the website. I've heard some feedback, and I think I have an idea that will help the board pages on the website be better accessible to the community and to the boards. It'll be rolled into that digital packet system. Also, I mentioned earlier the Weathersfield 5-year maintenance plan. In the summer is a lot of groundbreaking and a lot of projects for IT and buildings and grounds. The best time for us to do our work for buildings and grounds and IT is in the summer when the buildings are empty. So that's when we really get to work, and we're hanging access points, cameras. The Mount Scottney School District just approved the new dining hall that I think is going to be the best dining hall in Vermont this fall. So we're really excited about that. The Heartland 5-year maintenance plan I'll be working on. I'll also be working on a budget timeline for the boards, so that one of the things we've heard from boards over the years is rather than just waking up at a September, October board meeting and, oh, it's budget season, wouldn't it be a good idea to have a timeline so that you know well ahead of time what meetings we're going to be discussing what parts of the budget. So for example, in September, it might be the SU budget at this board meeting. At the Mount Scotty board meeting in November, you might be working on the wages and benefits and capital projects. And then in December and so on and so forth, we're ready to lay it out right to town meeting day. In the fall, Brittany and Angie are working on the PD learning and evaluation system. And the absent management system is tied into the digital time card system I mentioned earlier. So when we rolled out the digital time card system, we didn't do everything at once. We did the equivalent of paper time cards and digitizing that, but that left us open to use this product for next year, now to do absent management. So for example, is sick and can't come into school at, and they know that at 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock at night or 5 a.m. in the morning, they would just put in their absence, and then the administrative assistant for that school could assign a sub. A sub could go in and pick up the job automatically without even having the administrative assistant involved at all. So there's a lot of efficiency. Heartland has used ReadySub for years. Christina Heartland has used ReadySub for years. And this is a different software package, but the same idea for system. Another thing I've recognized as a need is to review and standardize all our job descriptions. And that's a big lift that's ongoing. I'm going to start doing a little bit at once and then work our way through it with Tina. But I think it's really important that, especially as we have a new interim superintendent, that we have something standard for job descriptions when people come in. In the winter, obviously, is budget season. That'll take up most of my bandwidth. But I also want to model the new eval system for the department heads that I mentioned that we're going to do in the fall. And for the assumption that as I do the eval system with the new department heads, that they will do reviews for their people the following year. Also, I'll update the 5-year plans if necessary. I just want to put all the names up there of everybody who works in finance and operations. And as I mentioned earlier, they do a lot of yeoman's work where the teachers and the students are always first in our mind, but there has to be somebody who gets the building clean every single day. Every wireless access point has to be up for every classroom. Every budget has to be reconciled. Every payroll period, somebody has to make sure that all our teachers are paid and staff members. Make sure that students get good, nutritious food every single day. They can't take a day off. I really want to appreciate, recognize all the work that they do. And it really is a great team. I do a walkthrough every Thursday morning in each building, and I get to meet a lot of these people's faces. And I knew a lot of them at Windsor building, obviously, but a lot of new faces for me. And I really am just amazed by all the work that they do. I just want to thank you and the board and David, and congratulations to Teresa White, who's a custodian at Weathersfield, and Mike Vivian, a custodian at Windsor School, who are retiring 13 years and 35 years respectively. Just done great work. Mike Vivian, especially as the IT director for 10 years, 12 years. For 12 years as the IT director, Mike Vivian on Buildings and Grounds has done so much work for us in the summer and April break. When we're hanging wire, he's right up there in the ceilings with us. He never complains. Anything you ask him to do, Mike Vivian will do for you. It's been amazing working with him. And it's just also amazing to see him retiring. I get to stand up here and congratulate him because 35 years ago, he was my bus driver up on County Road. And I really want to appreciate all the work he's done. And that's everything I have.
Wow.
Thank you.
Thank you, Larry. Very informative. Rebecca.
Yes, I thank you very much, Larry. It was very informative, and it was great to give a shout out to all of those folks who really keep these buildings going and clean and available for our students and staff. So again, thank you so much for that presentation.
Thank you.
Anne Marie.
Hi. I don't know if it's luck or your really good management, Larry, but I just want to say thank you for keeping the buses of our district running so well. I'm familiar with some bus situations in other nearby towns, and it's just amazing that I have not received one email from RSU saying that we don't have a bus, where I've seen several emails from other neighboring SUs.
Thanks, Maureen. We outsourced that to Student Transportation of Vermont, and Mike Gaudette deserves a lot of the credit for that. And we work closely on those situations that do arise.
Davis.
Yeah, I just want to add to the chorus here, and thank you for giving us such an informative and exhaustively detailed presentation. I want to just focus a little bit. I know you said that it may not stand out to people, the going paperless on the time card system, but that stuff really makes a difference. Taking care of those like small process inefficiencies that people don't see. I mean, it saves time and energy and money later down the line. So just being able to focus on those small aspects that maybe are invisible to a lot of folks, and like doing the IT bullpen. I mean, that's really huge, and I'm glad to hear that there's that kind of forward thinking happening going on. So thanks for doing that, and thanks for telling us all about it.
Thanks, David.
Elizabeth.
Thanks, Amy. Larry, you really, I am so thoroughly impressed by your management. Not that what you did with the IT department already, we knew that you were up to the task, but straddling all these different worlds, you've done a stellar job. I mean, look at even your mission statement being cohesive and actually explaining, what how all of it works together is really nicely done. But I also want to just re-emphasize how fantastic it is that Jim Taft won at recognition from Efficiency Vermont. That's no small feat, and so thank you all for your outstanding work.
We have an old basketball saying, good players make good coaches. So a lot of the credit should go to the department heads and the people working in the departments. But I appreciate all the kind words.
And it's also creating a work environment where people want to work together and helping each other and boosting other departments, not just their own. So thank you.
Thank you
for all the hard work that you do and all of the staff.
Thanks, Amy.
It's wonderful. Next, we have the equity work update.
And I think we pretty much covered that, Amy. I think we just need to be, vigilant on that doodle poll, and so we can get our work going with Mary Gannon. Unless anybody else had any questions, I think we're okay with that now.
Right. So just everyone keep an eye out for any updates on when our meetings are going to be. Are there any other questions on that? We'll move ahead to the calendar and release days.
Right. I just wanted everybody to see the updated, I put it in the chat, the updated calendar. As you know, at your last SU meeting, you approved 4 early release days. We tried not to hit every Friday like we did in the past, but less than we had this year because they are an interruption and a challenge for parents. So instead of the 8 that we had this year, we cut it in half, and we've got 4. So that calendar reflects those changes, and the dates are October 7th, October 7th, February 7th. I'm sorry, let's go in order. October 7th And then the next one was December 5th, I believe. And I think we were going to move that one. I think we decided we might, no, December 5th, then February 7th, and then May 5th. I think that's been moved. So those are the dates that have been set for the noon release. That it says on the copy I just sent you May 1st, but we decided a Monday to have an early release day on a Monday did not make sense. So we moved it to the 5th. So I think this is ready for publication now, and we'll send it out this week. This was just an FYI.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions or comments?
The other issue, I'll make a comment just because we have been getting questions about the school day and the length of the school day. As you know, we got out at 2:15 this year, and I think parents would like to get, not that it was that much different, but our dismissal times were probably closer to 2:30. So the window for dismissal this year, we haven't completely finalized it yet, but it will be somewhere between 2:25 and 2:35. So it will add to the day. We've got a little bit of an issue that we've got to work out between Windsor and West Windsor, because right now the middle school kids and high school kids at Windsor need to get out about 5 minutes early to get that bus to get back to West Windsor. And we're trying to work that out either by getting on the bus or by working out maybe a slightly different time at Albert Bridge. But we will be adding to the school day next year. And that will come out in formal schedules from each building.
Elizabeth.
Thanks, Amy. I have just a very quick comment about the calendar, and that is that this is a legislative piece, so just a warning. This is legislative speak coming up. That there's a miscellaneous education bill it's on the legislative calendar, the House calendar for this week, and it includes pushing ahead with universal calendars for the whole state. So that'll be interesting.
And to Elizabeth's point, I think that's why we wanted to finalize last month, because the agency, this is the first time I've ever heard the agency ask for our calendar. I mean, by law, we're supposed to submit it to them, but I bet that's exactly why they are pushing to get that calendar. They probably want to look at all these calendars and see how far off they are. And I will tell you, and Elizabeth would probably know this, that just getting a regional calendar, so we agree with Hartford, and all, it is a major chore. So as we've often said to the state policymakers, we'd love to see a universal calendar, but good luck and carry on. It would be great to see if we can make that work.
Right. The thought, I almost laughed, but I won't.
It's a good goal, believe me.
Oh, it is. But
I don't know if anyone else is experiencing this, but I can't get access to that calendar, David. I don't know if
I can't either.
Okay.
In both locations. It says it's in the trash in the email that was shared by Lori, and then it says I don't have access in your link.
Unless somehow Lori's blocked the access, I don't know. But let me try putting the link in one more time and see how that works.
and if that fails, we can let Lori know, and she can
She'll send it out. Yep.
tomorrow.
It's gonna go out to everybody.
David shared the folder. He just shared the calendar.
Okay.
Did that work any better?
Yeah, it worked.
All right. Good. You got it.
Great. Thank you.
It was a completely different link, David. So I just think you posted the wrong link.
I think I posted the wrong link. You're right, Bill. All right, so we'll get that out to everybody, and that's it on calendar.
Okay, thank you. And ESSER is not there, and SU consolidation is not there. So we are up to our policies. And we have second reading of C14 policy on section 504 and ADA grievance protocol for students and staff. And second reading. And Bill.
I mean, I've read it again. It's pretty boilerplate and it's required by law. Katie, is there anything that you've seen that we should be concerned about, or?
The only thing I gave feedback on was to split out the grievance policy from students and staff so that the staff grievance policy goes to my office and not to fellow staff members. Because we keep a pretty, we now, for the past 2.5 years, have had all 504 go through Tina's office to a 504 committee, and so kept it out of individual buildings because they involve highly confidential staff information. So in keeping with that process, we thought that we would want to make that suggestion, because originally the way this was written, everything would go to the building level 504 person, staff and students, and they wouldn't be privy to solve anything at that level, if that makes sense.
Actually, that does. I think that is a good change. So I don't know what everyone else thinks, but I think that should be put into the policy. What Katie just suggested.
I think what Lori sent might already reflect that. I can open it, talking and reading at the same time, not as trying to. It only took a couple of tweaks to do an and or. Paragraph 2 maybe, I'll go back and pull it up. And the only other thing and this may affect other policies, but in the special ed world, we never put people's names in roles, in documents, because there's the hit by the bus rule. If I put down that you are the school psychologist and you're going to do something and then you're no longer there, then we have to go back and change that document. So I don't know how that affects our policies, but we're very specific on each individual person's name, which could be as outdated as the end of this year, depending on the list of those 504 coordinators, people change positions. So it just struck me as I read all of it that is it possible to just stick with the roles, the titles, instead of the people's names? Because I think you'd be changing policies very frequently.
Right, because I'm looking at page 2 of the 504 grievance protocol, and there is your name, Katie. Yeah, instead of just saying the district section 504 coordinator.
And we could have an updated page every year on the website that said, here are the people's roles for this year. But I remember reading some other thing that I was responsible for, it might have been something having to do with compliance, and Karen's name was listed under there. And obviously by default, I'm in that position, but that's a few years outdated, so that was a thought.
Right.
Still, here we go.
So Katie, does it look like Lori separated out?
I'm pulling it up now because
I put it in the chat.
oh, thanks. It would,
I'm just not sure.
because it is down under step 1, believes that he or she has been discriminated against by the district, is encouraged but is not required to discuss the matter informally with the appropriate building principal when the person is a student, or with his immediate supervisor when the person is an employee. If the agency is not a student or employee, the grievance may instead contact. No, actually, that doesn't look like that it was changed to what I had sent Lori.
No,
Okay.
that's not separated out.
Right, let me pull up what I had originally sent, let me see. Step 2, that was the change. If the informal step 1 process does not resolve the matter, or the grievant does not wish to use the informal procedures set 1, a written complaint may be submitted to either the district section 504 coordinator, my name, if an employee or student complaints may also be submitted to, and that continued with the building level person. I don't know if that tracks what was sent.
Not exactly.
No, the step 2 that I'm looking at doesn't
track that?
No.
So again, this is second reading. So what I could do is I could send it. I made some comments. I could send it back to Lori, and I'll also copy you, Katie. And then we can just get it ready for final reading.
But I do really like the suggestion about taking the actual names and emails out.
Yeah, I made that comment too, Bill.
Yeah.
I think that is a very good idea. Thank
Not
you,
that we ever
Katie.
hope it is that.
Right.
Sorry, it's a special editing. Is my really to separate 504 and 88 issues from mine so that we
Excuse
concurring with building level administration to really keep the integrity of the process and the consistency across the SU, how we treat all employees. So there's a good paper trail. I think that's something we've really tried to do the past couple of years.
Okay. Great. So that will be, we will have a third reading, and I think we'll have it at our May meeting. Thank you. And then it is a review of C8, Policy on Pupil Privacy Rights. And let's see, Bill.
I found a lot of this confusing in that when it talks about this does not apply to the collection, disclosure, use of personal information for students who are applying for post-secondary education recruits or free and reduced book clubs and stuff like that. I don't see how it doesn't apply to that. I mean, you can't gather that financial information without the parents' input. I mean, it's just, and I understand what they're doing is that they're not allowing, but I don't know. It's just that's in two different places, where it's talking about where this doesn't apply. But how could, I mean, you can't get financial information from about a student's parents without their participation. It's confusing.
So where are you seeing that? Maybe I missed.
Well, opt out page 1, the second to last bullet point. After the first sentence. So the first bullet point under parents, guardians of students under 18 or age or older have the right to opt out of the following activities. The collection, disclosure, and use of personal information gathered from students for the purpose of marketing or selling that information. Okay, but then it says that it doesn't apply to a bunch of different stuff. maybe they're talking about collecting the information in other ways than contacting parents.
It is confusing. Rebecca,
It confused me also, Bill, but I flashed on my experience as a guidance counselor, and when we needed to work with our juniors to sort of create events for them to participate in, be they college. Um, uh, um, a bunch of colleges showing up at the school, or even financial aid opportunities for certain students. It was there was information that we had as guidance counselors that helped us to assist students move in a certain direction, be it for grants or for financial aid, for specific schools in particular. And I think that if we were to if we were to like reach out to parents to say we are trying to create these opportunities for our students, our juniors and our seniors, and we really need your permission in order to do that. That would really limit a lot of the counselors in accessing some of the information and providing it for the students in a timely fashion.
Yeah, that I understand. I'm just concerned that reading through this policy, it is, one, it's overly complicated, and two, it's confusing. And I just don't want to get jammed up as a school board if a parent says, "Hey, I needed to opt out X, Y, and Z." I just think this should be clearer. That's all. And it's not. Yeah. I understand what they're wanting to accomplish, just because I know the exact topics you're talking about, but I don't think this policy clearly accomplishes that for the general public. If someone like me, not that I'm patting my own back, but this is what I do. I read laws and I interpret them for the district. If I can't understand this, how is somebody reading through this policy who doesn't have my background or the background of a lot of the administrators on this call, or even other professionals? How are they going to understand exactly what this talking about? I don't know.
Rebecca, did you want to speak again?
Yes, I just wanted to ask, is this a boilerplate that we just took on from the Vermont School Board Association?
The answer is yes, Rebecca. And I see the confusion throughout this. I mean, but this was the template. I wonder if we shouldn't look around and see what other districts have done with this boilerplate, because it is a little, I think it's really only trying to say that if there is a student survey that's going to contain information about any of those bulleted points, parents would have the right to opt their students out of that survey. I think that's all it's trying to say. If you're going to ask my child about their religious affiliation, whether or not we're poor or rich, whether or not we have unusual sexual behavior or attitudes, the parent would have to know about that survey and could opt out of that survey.
I also think it's trying. Excuse me, David. I don't mean to, but I think what it's also trying to say is that school counselors and administrators in their position, trying to assist students in getting X, Y, or Z, or what Rebecca said, can utilize information they already have. So I think that's what it's trying to say.
Right, so I will look into this. I'll talk with the policy person at Vermont School Board Association.
Yeah,
And
that's a good idea, Amy.
that particular bullet of collection, disclosure, et cetera, that is kind of confusing. If that's okay with people, and we can bring this back to May as well.
Okay.
I think that's well. But also look at it. It's bring this up before right to opt out. Right at the first right to opt out when it says parents and guardians shall. Wait, hold on. Okay, never mind.
Okay. So I will talk with the policy person. I will let people know.
David, could you please mute yourself? Because I'm
Oh,
not
I'm
able
sorry.
to,
I thought I
I'm not
did.
able to hear anything other than your typing.
I'm trying to copy some notes down. I thought I shut my mic off. Sorry about that.
I think in a past life, David was a Morse code transmitter.
Yeah, he's like bam, bam, bam. Yeah, Annalise.
Hi. The thing I was going to say about the policy of having parents opt out is, I know for us when it comes to the school counselor stuff, we generally have to do is we always ask permission from the parents when it comes to surveys, but we also give them a form of education on why we're doing the survey in the first place, or what it is that the child is going to be doing and what's the purpose behind it. So I would be wondering if you did like a full just like opt-out policy, if that might make it so that parents don't end up looking at the information that's going out and then just kind of opting them out on things that actually they might want them to take a survey on, or they might want to answer questions on. Having it just like a broad-based one, I think could be challenging, especially when you think of in the past where like we had that one survey that came out from the University of New Hampshire that was tied with WISE. And then later on in the year, we tried to do the other survey that goes kind of along with like some of our other risk assessments and stuff. And a lot of parents actually were okay with that once they understood that it wasn't tied together, once they got more information. So I think it's just one of those things where you want to be careful that like whatever they're opting out on, that there's still, it's not just like so concrete or so black and white.
And this is just a policy in general so that parents know, okay, if there is a survey, I will be receiving information about that survey and I will have the opportunity to opt out. Page 2 of the document has a sample opt-out letter. And so opting out, one of the paragraphs on page 2, Weathersfield, Heartland, and/or Mount Ascutney District shall notify parents or guardians of any student who may be subject to surveys for which they may choose to opt out at least 5 business days in advance of the administration of the survey. So it's just giving families, parents, the information about how surveys will be handled and that there is the opportunity to opt out. It's not saying, okay, this is it. You can opt out of everything today by signing this document. It's
Yeah, I think that that's fine. If I was to get this, let's say at the beginning of the year next year, and I was going to be someone who's like, I'm going to opt out as a parent, I would then probably think that I've opted out for the rest of the year. And so therefore I might not consider anything about it. Like I might just feel like, oh, I already got that covered. I opt out for the year.
except when a parent sees this policy, there isn't going to be anything that they sign and send back that they opt out. That letter will be coming out with each individual, the information about the administration of a survey, if that makes sense.
No, it does. It totally makes sense. I just know sometimes when we do these things, sometimes what happens is that the parents are not always necessarily looking at it in a critical standpoint of like, this is going to be happening. I'm still going to get the information, but instead do a collective read through, say, you know what, I don't want my child doing any of this stuff. Doesn't matter, opt out. And then anything that comes, they'll be like, why am I getting an additional? I've already opted out.
Yeah, and when we will then educate and have the conversation with parents. So you're right. There will always be situations where there are questions within our communities. So thank you. You're muted.
Are you talking to me?
Yeah, you have your hand raised.
Oh yeah, well I didn't know you called on me. I was patiently waiting. I'm gonna send you a copy of this because I highlighted what I'm talking about. And also, I'd like some clarification of the beginning of page 2, the last bullet point, the administrator of any non-emergency invasive physical examination or screening that is required as a condition of attendance. What? I mean, I don't know what evasive physical examination would be a condition of attendance. I mean, that's not attendance.
I will be asking a lot of questions.
Okay, thank you.
Be a policy person, so. And we will bring this back in May. Because you're right, there are a lot of questions, and we don't want to have a policy that leads to more questions. I mean, a reason for policy is to be clarifying and to make things easier for not only for ourselves but for our community. And again, not to like Annalise said, not to give the wrong impression to parents that, okay, I've read this and I have opted out. So we want this to be as clear as possible, particularly because we have had instances in the past around surveys and the administration of surveys. So we will come back to this. Nancy.
Just a quick one, Bill. I think that one that you pointed out might be a lice inspection, might be giving a COVID test if someone is ill, and because they wouldn't be able to go to school with either of those things.
Possibly, I have no idea, but it definitely needs to be clarified.
Yeah.
You know, when we're all kind of pitching in and trying to interpret it, you know something's up.
Exactly. Saying, what is that? Yeah. And if we're having questions, I'm sure that our community is having similar questions, and we would like to have them answered, or at least be able to answer them when they come up. So I'm glad we had this conversation. Are we okay to move on to items for action? So we, as from our April 18th meeting, we are going to be interviewing candidates for our interim superintendent. That will be the person who will fill in from July 1st until the following, possibly June, well, yeah, until June 30th, because I am sure that in that time period, we will find our permanent superintendent to fill our vacancy. But in the meantime, we do need to have I was thinking having a subcommittee who will look over or to set up dates for the interview process. We have 3 candidates, and tomorrow I will send that information to board members. And our subcommittee will work on finding dates in the very near future, like probably not, well, today is Monday, possibly this week or next week to do the interview process, so that at our May meeting, we can appoint our interim. And Bill.
Just you rattle off those dates, but there was no year end. You're talking about a interim.
So interim would start on July 1st, 2022. And the interim position would run that fiscal year until June 30th, 2023.
Okay, thank you. I just need years.
Yeah, I get it. And Rebecca.
I just want to say that I was part of the recent middle school principal search, and I worked, and I know that Jennifer Aldridge was part of facilitating that whole process, and I just really wanted to, and I did thank her, but I thought that the process used was really excellent. They were excellent questions. They were relevant questions, and there was a group that really represented the community, the staff, the board, and I just wanted to share that experience. And
great, thank you. Would reaching out to Jennifer to assist Mark? Mark?
I'm sorry, I hit that X down. Hit that accidentally.
Okay, Nicole?
Yeah, I mean, I think that having Jennifer in on I think having Jennifer part of this process makes sense. And I would fully support that.
Okay, David, would it be appropriate for me to reach out to her, or what?
No, I think it would be good for you to reach out to her, Amy, just to keep it at the board level. I'm sure she'd be glad to help. She's got the process pretty well. down pat. Just be clear with her what the next steps are. But I think she was very helpful. You know, we're down to 1 or 2 finalists now, and that was a good process, as Rebecca said. And so, yeah, I don't know if Jennifer, it looks like she's not still on, correct?
I was looking.
She just signed off.
Okay. So I'll reach out to her by text, and then I'll tell her you're going to be in touch with her to help with this process. Okay.
That sounds great. Thanks.
So Amy, I missed the part about setting dates for the interviews. What was the story there? I missed that.
Well, again, we would all be looking at our calendars, and I could look at my calendar and look at the widest amount of dates that I could possibly be available, and I could send it out to everyone. And then talking with Jennifer about questions, we could then settle on a date and
time.
We would all, date and time, and we would ask the questions of, if that makes sense. I'm not finishing any of my sentences here. So I would send out a doodle of possible dates in the next couple of weeks, dates and times. I would also send out the information on our candidates, and I would talk with Jennifer about questions for the interview process. And then we as a board, whole board, would then interview the candidates. Elizabeth.
I was just going to say that one thing that we could do is agree on a set of questions and then just have a few, a selection of board members interview and then have the interviews recorded and let the board watch the recorded interviews if we all agree on the questions. Just because I was thinking maybe we could do like a series of 1 hour long lunchtime interviews that we could share with the rest of the board. And then we could even do it, like if we have any follow-up questions, we could have the whole board interview the candidates, but it would be a shorter time because, or a shorter amount of time because it would just be follow-up questions. It's just a thought.
It's a good thought.
Yeah, it is. It's a good thought. I see Meredith Kelly. The hand raised.
Oh, I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, great. Hi, I'm Meredith Kelly, a parent at Weathersfield, and I was just wondering, I didn't see anywhere the process at this point. Are parents allowed to participate, or is it just a sole board decision?
For the interim, it will be the board. When we have the full search for superintendent, we will be going out to the communities and requesting participation at that point. And we will be holding community forums.
Okay, thank you. I just wasn't clear on the interim process.
Thank you. Thanks for asking. Elizabeth?
Yes, Amy?
You have tons of time.
I actually, the time when I do have time, it is during lunchtime. So I'd be glad to do that if you guys think it's a good idea. We can pull that together. And again, just like I do have time during lunch, but it is only 1 hour, and it has a very defined beginning and end. So that's why it would be, I think that's why it would actually be better, because the videos that we send out to people can't be, hours
They
long.
won't. Yeah, and the interviewee would know that there is a start and a stop. It's not going to go on. And it doesn't even have to be that long.
Yeah, right. And then if we had a follow-up set, those follow-up questions might be easier to navigate into one meeting. Just saying. I'm glad to help in whatever way I can.
So would you be able to set the days and times notifying the candidates to see when, if it's a Tuesday at noon that they're available, for instance?
Yeah, I will coordinate with Jennifer Aldrich getting the questions. I will set up the times with the candidates, and I will send an invitation out to anybody who wants to come to those times.
Yeah, that sounds wonderful.
But
Thank
they're going to
you.
be on Zoom and not Google Meets.
Yeah, that's fine.
I can help with that too, if you want additional help.
Yeah. Matter of fact, what it's looking like, certainly everybody invited, but maybe if the board chairs take the lead, it sounds like Amy and Elizabeth and Nicole. I know Anne Marie would stay there. I know noon is good for Anne Marie too, because that's when she and I talk a lot of times. So yeah, if you could coordinate that with Jen, I'll give Jen a heads up. Elizabeth, you're going to reach out to her. I mean, if you just did 3 consecutive days at noon, I mean, because remember, then the board, they have to review those recordings. But then the most important thing is you've got to get back together again one more time, to make that final, because the whole board has to have a warned meeting to obviously to appoint the interim.
Absolutely. And I think that, I don't want to exclude any member of the board from having the opportunity to ask questions.
Right.
It's just, it's just to facilitate, a very basic level, and then we'll add on another time, but it'll be well organized so that we can actually, have a special meeting and come to a conclusion about it or whatever.
Mark.
If Anne Marie has difficulty making any of those lunchtime meetings, I can jump in on any of those days if necessary.
I say anybody who wants to come to the lunchtime meetings can.
Right.
I don't think there's any reason to limit who comes to the lunchtime meetings, to be perfectly honest. I just think it would be easier to package as little videos. That's all.
So
with the candidates,
they will have to be warned.
If it's more than.
Yes, you're right.
They're going to be warned, because we will never know if there will be more then. So they'll be warned and then go into executive session to.
Lori can do that. Yep.
So once the dates have been determined, but I think anyone on the board would be able to, if they have time at noon on whatever day. So great. Patty, you have your hand raised.
I do. Thank you for recognizing me. Typically in a superintendency candidacy, there is opportunity, even in interim, and I was on David's interim candidacy, I believe, there is typically opportunity for teachers to weigh in and provide potential questions. I'm wondering if the board is willing to, not to belabor the process, but I'm wondering if the board is willing to get feedback from teachers as well.
We can. Elizabeth?
I think it's a great idea, but I also think that we can do it. We could have another, facilitated lunchtime discussion that people could watch if they chose to, and then we could. I don't know. I'm just. I am having a hard time scheduling nighttime meetings, but 1 hour long lunchtime meetings are okay, and so I think we should exercise that as an option. But I think it's a great idea to seek input from other people who have worked with each of the candidates.
So thank you, Patty. Nikki?
Just a quick question. Is there a challenge with recording executive session meetings? Can we limit access to them?
Yes, we can limit access.
I think you can.
Very good point. And Beth?
Yeah, I really like Patty's idea of like getting some questions just from the staff. I think would be really great. It's not talking about a whole new meeting, but making sure that the voice of the staff are there and present.
Okay. So Elizabeth, when you talk with Jennifer about the questions, to have an idea of where those, how those questions were formulated, and then perhaps ask her for her input on teacher input on questions, perhaps sending out a quick something to all staff.
Yep. And also if any of you board members have burning questions that you really would like to be sure are included, just send them on to me and I'll collate them.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks for taking that. So we are just, everyone stay tuned for possible days and whatever time Elizabeth has for lunch. So, okay, next is the Equity Proposals Committee. And that will be individuals, probably someone. Oh, David, how did you decide that? Or what was your?
We just need a board member from each district who'd be willing to sit on that proposal team. I'll reach out to the task force.
Okay. Do we have some volunteers? So what
I think it should be one meeting. I think we can do it pretty quickly.
So I'm almost thinking that at least from Heartland and Wethersfield, the SU representatives have volunteered for almost everything so far. What if we were to open this opportunity up to additional board members, not just the SU reps from Wethersfield and Heartland? David, would you be willing to send out an email asking?
Yeah, I can certainly do that. I wonder if it would be more effective, though, if the board, if like Anne Marie and Nicole and Elizabeth were to just ask their board members. I mean, I don't mind doing it. It's just that I wonder if they wouldn't be more responsive.
Can you send me the email to ask them?
Yeah, that's what I'll do. Or I'll certainly copy you on it. Maybe that's.
If you could just give me the language, I'm happy. I don't have the.
Well, what I'll do is I'll send out the initial email, and then you can follow up with your board. I just think the sooner we can get this team together would be good. And Rebecca served on the equity task force along with a couple of others. Nikki was on that task force, Elizabeth. So they may end up getting tapped anyhow in another format.
Anne Marie?
David, do you know when this meeting is going to take place? Like, is this a
Yeah,
evening meeting or a daytime meeting?
Yeah, good question. I have a feeling, I have not confirmed with Zach McLaughlin yet, but I think it'll be a late afternoon meeting. It'll probably be a 4:30 to 6:30 or something like that. That's my guess, so that we can take care of people who have to work.
Elizabeth?
Thanks, Amy. David, just to confirm, this all has to take place really soon because both you and Zach are leaving in June.
Yeah, we wanted to get this. That was our hope, is that we could get the proposal before both of our boards before we both left. I mean that's what we've been talking about.
It would be great if you could shepherd it at least, slightly past the proposal so that it's underway before you go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I've taken, no offense to Zach, but he candidated much further. I mean, he's leaving the state, so I've taken a little bit of the lead on this, but I want to be sensitive to him giving me the names of the people. But I'll move it as quickly as I can.
Thank you, David. And thank you, board chairs, for reaching out to everyone. So we're there. Now, next is our the motion to approve bill to research administrative compensation along with the negotiations team.
So moved.
Okay, Nancy?
Second.
Is that are there any other questions or concerns on that?
I think I missed what we're voting on. What are we voting on?
We are voting on the proposal of bills for administrative compensation to across.
Basically to authorize Bill and the negotiating team to work on the administrative salary structure.
Ready. I'm ready.
Okay. Unfortunately, my Chromebook died, so I'll try to remember who all is here. I'm going to go across this screen, starting with all those in favor, starting with Colleen.
David, can you mute yourself, please?
Yep. Just trying to get this vote down.
Nancy?
Aye.
Elizabeth?
Aye.
Nicole?
I'm going to abstain. I missed the discussion on this.
Rebecca?
Aye.
Anne Marie?
Aye.
Nancy? You were already there. I'm sorry.
Aye again.
Mark?
Aye.
Davis?
Aye.
Beth?
Aye.
Have I neglected anyone?
Aye.
Bill? Yeah, okay. And I am an aye. So it has passed. So Bill and the negotiations team, go for it. Thank you.
Thank you.
And we look forward to the information that you learn. That'd be great. I believe we are to setting the next agenda.
Wait, Amy, wait. There's one more item for action. Well, recall, if you will, at the last meeting, we agreed that we were going to authorize as an item for action, authorize funds for the VSBA consultant.
Oh, for the search?
Yep.
Right. And I no longer have my Chromebook. They did get back to me. It is approximately 8,000, maybe 8,500, along with a lot of information on what the search entails. Can we wait until our May meeting to vote on that? And that way I can possibly have someone from VSBA, because I know that Beth had questions on their equity policies. And perhaps someone from VSBA can talk with our board at our May meeting.
Yeah, I just thought maybe if we engage them now, they might be able to help us just as a guide in the just dotting I's and crossing T's in the interim hiring. And so I would imagine that's part of the whole package. So I was going to just move that we authorize up to $12,000 for VSBA to engage VSBA in our the full package of our superintendent search.
Second.
Well, does that sound all right?
I think so. As long as, because what we're doing, we're then voting to engage VSBA. And there are some people who still had a question on whether or not we should engage VSBA.
Okay, sorry.
Rebecca?
I didn't know if some people had questions about VSBA. I do feel, though, that this leadership position is extremely important, and I think that the sooner we get someone to collaborate with us as we move forward, the better. But I didn't know that there were. I thought there were questions regarding what their policies were, their equity policy. But I don't know if there was a question about engaging them.
Well, the question was, depending on what their equity policies are, do we want to engage them? Am I understanding your thoughts, Beth, correctly?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always a little leery of when it's kind of stated of like, well, this is what everyone does, and this is what we've always done, so we're going to do that. So I'm always a little leery of those kinds of situations, and that's what it kind of feels like. Of like, I want to understand, why is everyone doing it? Is it in the best interest of where we're going, and along with what are their equity practices around hiring? because I think that's huge. I'm just it's kind of poking the beast, I guess, a little in that sense, of just because I don't know them well. And so they haven't necessarily gained my trust, I guess, because I've never worked with that organization before.
So what I can do is reach out and see if either Sue or someone can meet with us and kind of introduce how a VSBA search goes and what VSBA, kind of what their equity policies are for hiring, et cetera. Let me see, Rebecca, you had your hand raised again, or?
I was wondering if that information is public, and if it's something that they can forward to us. Two, I don't want to feel like we find out that they may not be what exactly we're looking for, and then we're in a situation where, where do we go from here? So I really would like, since this is such an important position, I really would like some clarity on what are the options. If you are if you're not looking at VSBA as the only option, I want to know what are the options, and I want to make sure that we're on top of that.
Okay, I could do a little bit more research to see if that other organization we used in the past is even, we had been a member of that other organization, so I can see if that is even a thing anymore. But being I can also provide more VSBA information to everyone. I can send that out. And I can also see if either Sue, the executive director of VSBA, can talk with us, or another staff member. And that would be at our May meeting. And then we can vote. And then the big search can start. In the meantime, because we are only looking at internal candidates, and we have 3, I think that our group, and looking at questions that Jennifer has put together, and just use ones that fit looking at an interim superintendent, that we can do that. And we do have authorization from the state to do that as a board. So if we're okay with that. So we are at setting the next agenda. And Elizabeth.
I'm sorry. I apologize for over, participating or raising my hand as much as I have, but I really would appreciate it if we could have a look at our hiring policy, look carefully at our hiring policy at our next meeting, and also look at the policy number C20, VSBA policy number C28, which I thought was going to be on this agenda, but
no, because we would have been here until midnight probably, which is why we had agreed to. So our May meeting will be until midnight probably, but that's okay. So the policy C28, and was that the gender?
Yeah, that was the naming policy.
Okay.
And if in the meantime, like I don't think that we should necessarily retool the hiring policy that we already have. I think we should all bring to the next meeting input on what we'd like to see in a hiring policy, or a hiring process policy and hiring policy. But I think we should put, this is a great opportunity to put some things into place that we can use in the future that starts at the top. So we should incorporate. I swear there is I did not look, but I swear there was a hiring policy part of our anti-racism procedures doc. And so that should be part of it. And there's a whole bunch of really great kind of new conventional wisdom about using blind meeting or blind interviews and things like that. That we should come armed with ideas.
Great. And let me see, will there be ESSER?
No, but there will be curriculum. We have several things to update from the curriculum office.
Okay.
It will include all that.
Okay. Will there be an update on Summer Academy? Okay. Annalise Ennis, you have your hand raised.
Hi, I'm going to do this as quickly as possible. There's a question that I have in the terms of how it ended up unfolding with the whole, like, should you get parental consent for certain clubs? Should you not? And in thinking of this, I was trying to like problem solve in my head how to do it. And I think what's happened is our parents have not been able to really establish connections with our schools because of COVID. You know, we had that whole policy of no parents being able to come in, no extra. I'm wondering if this would be something that would go in the next agenda, is to do something where, like, in the beginning of our school year, having a rotation with each of the buildings where parents come in and they do kind of like a hopes and dreams. So like the first day, parents would come in, they would go into their kids' classrooms, they would meet other parents, they would have their kids there, they could talk about how, like, the teacher would say, this is my hope and dream. Then the kids could talk about their hopes and dreams for the years, and the parents, and so on. So everyone's kind of having like almost a restorative circle, but in terms of getting to know each other, to kind of understand that everybody is a part of this team. And then in that process, for the middle school up into the high school, having a section where they would have the ability to check out the clubs, so that parents could meet who are the staff members that are a part of these clubs, who should they connect with if there's any kind of questions about it. And then maybe even looking into the fact of having like a parent sponsorship. So like a parent sponsors a club, and they would go in to the school or meet like through Zoom or something once a month to just be like, how's it going? They don't have to go into details about anything, but like maybe then they also help with organizing anything that might have to take place out of school, and just be kind of like a parent connection. Just trying to think of options that give parents the ability to feel like they're involved in the school, which I think might lessen some of the overall concern and public outcry that's coming up with getting hooked into like false information, and then also just feeling that major disconnect. So anyway, that's an idea. I'm happy to think more about it and present it at the next meeting if that's something that people thought would be presentable or a good idea. Just throwing it out there.
Thank you. I am not sure at our May meeting, given what we have, but that sounds like something that could happen, maybe a June or July meeting that could be the presentation, and then administrators could, if the board has consensus on that, then administrators could put together the dates that would be almost like an open house, it sounds like, only a little bit more to it. But I think given what we currently have on our agenda for the May meeting, that would be more like a June or July, if that's okay, Annalise.
Oh, I think that's totally fine. I just was thinking of as like how to make some of this, in a sense, not necessarily disappear, but I get the strong sense from parents, and I think it's just a disconnect. We've had 2 years of parents not being able to be a part of things, and so I think that it's easy for them to believe what like their 8-year-old is saying is going on in the classroom. So maybe instead of doing an open house at the end, like we usually do it like end of September, early October, but have it in the beginning of the year so that parents are seeing not only the teacher, but then also seeing all the other parents, and then also seeing all the other children, and kind of making it a little bit more intimate so that you're not feeling like, this kid's a bully, or it's like, oh, this kid is this kid and this kid is that kid. It just gives it a little bit, like I said, a little more intimate feeling. But I'm happy to do it June or July. That would actually make my life easier too.
Okay, thank you. Nikki.
I just wanted to thank Annalise for forming that idea and being willing to pop it out there. And so I appreciate you waiting till June or July, because I am overwhelmed by the next meeting, but I really do want to keep that idea going. So thank you.
Is there anything we will have an update on any of the meeting dates, like the equity proposals committee, oh my gosh, what was our other group?
The administrative salary group?
No.
Was that the equity or audit?
The community forums.
Community forums, thank you. Yes, that's it. Thank you. So update on equity, community forums, and then someone from VSBA. And I think that will be an extremely full meeting. Do we need to have executive session? I do not believe we do.
No.
As much as, we could go another 10 minutes and make it a 9:30 meeting, but at 9, I motion to adjourn.
I so move.
Second.
Colleen, Mark seconds, got it.
Okay. And Elizabeth.
Aye.
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 Nancy.
I don't know if you said Nancy, but I
did. Bill.
Aye.
Mark.
Aye.
Aye.
Beth.
Aye.
Rebecca.
Aye.
Have I missed anyone?
Aye.
Aye.
Gosh, and Ann, I'm so sorry. Oh my, it's really hard when the pictures keep moving, and that's why I always had my Chromebook, but my Chromebook died. So, our meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone. Discussion. Have a good night, everyone.